Thank you so much for joining today. It's Chair Yoga for the care of Waldenstroms, or Waldenstrom as we are now calling it, and we're here with a large group of people. We've been talking about the experience of inflexibility, or where you experience stiffness, and our class today will be designed towards building flexibility in all the joints of the body. This was inspired by an article I read in the Washington Post, which talked about the connection that researchers made between flexibility or lack thereof and longevity or lack thereof. So they had something called the Flexa test, where they measured 5 different places in the body and the range of motion of that particular joint. And folks who are here today talked about where they experienced stiffness, and guess what? We hit pretty much every one of these areas that they did the tests in. So the ankles, the shoulders, they did also the wrists. Nobody talked about the wrists, but I know some of us here experienced limited motion in the wrists. They did something for the hips and the knees. Nobody said knees. So I thought that was interesting. And also a lot of us experience just general stiffness like in the shoulders and in the back. So those are some areas that you guys talked about today. And we're going to hit all of those areas to sort of see what is the flexibility level like today? What are some things we could do to help with that? And learn a little bit about what makes flexibility happen or takes it away. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started just by finding a comfortable seat. We're going to start our class in a seated posture today. If you're feeling tired, you could stay seated the whole time. We'll have an opportunity to do some standing movements, and then we'll wind down with some seated warm down. So let's go ahead and take a moment to just close the eyes if that feels comfortable for you. And welcoming you, Mike. If I didn't say your name, I'm glad you're here. So softening the gaze or closing the eyes, feeling your feet on the earth, your seat on the chair, and just entering into this space today exactly as you are. Can we take a few breaths together as a community in through the nose, out through the nose or mouth? Easy breaths in and out. And maybe we'll plant a seed of intention today. I am flexible in body and mind. Just planting that little seed. Welcoming you, Catherine. Welcoming you, Joanne. As we get started with a little bit of centering, a little bit of breathing. And I find that the intention setting can be very valuable as well. I am flexible in body and mind. What would that feel like? What would that look like? Just taking a moment to allow that to wash over you. And then as you're ready, you can begin to blink, the eyes open. Maybe you want to stretch the jaw a bit, simulate a yawn, or maybe you don't have to simulate it if it's later for you. So just stretching that jaw. Yeah, maybe massaging the face, that would feel good. And then we're going to get into a head to toe warm up, and we're going to visit as many different joints in the body as possible. So starting with the head and neck, and I'm going to begin just by bringing my arms down at my sides. Let those arms just dangle, maybe shake the hands a bit. And I'm just going to tilt my head from side to side. We're breathing into center. Breathing out to the other side. You've got it. Just tilting the neck from side to side. So wonderful to see you. doing what feels possible for you today, even if it is just listening to the breathing cues and breathing with us. In through the nose, out through the nose or mouth. I am flexible in body and mind. Okay, and then we'll take some circles with the head and neck. So there's a really interesting joint in the cervical spine that allows our head to basically pivot. It's a pivot joint to go in this sort of circular motion. So you might enjoy a little bit of movement there. Very good, and then we'll come back to center, and we're going to wake up the joints little by little before we start measuring anything, like what is my flexibility level today. So I'm going to lift my arms up just a little bit and then release my arms back down. So some of you talked about shoulders being an area where you experience stiffness, tightness, loss of mobility. And the shoulders are the most complicated joint in the entire body, or one of them, and they're the joint where we have the most range of motion. It can do the most different types of motion. This is one of them. Thus, it is the most vulnerable. So keeping our range of motion in the shoulders is high on my list of things to attend to today. Arms coming up as far as feels good. Out to the sides at first, or maybe out front if that feels better. All right, so just lifting up, feeling the shoulders. How far do my arms want to lift? Where is my body telling me to stop? Just listening, and there is no judgment of what's happening in your specific body today. All right, then I might lift my arms with my palms facing up and see if maybe my arms want to go a little farther here. And as I bring them down, the palms can face down. So I'm just sort of creating this nice circle of self-care, like defining my space. Maybe you can experience little kind of clicks or pops or anything in your shoulders as you do this. So the joints do wear down with time, right? And we might experience some friction of the cartilage. They're losing a bit of its padding. But every time we move a joint that is a synovial joint, which is most of the joints in the body, we can lubricate it. So motion is lotion. Motion is lotion. Any joint in the body, except for maybe the joints in the skull, are synovial joints. I'm going to take one more. That feels good. All right, and now I'll bring my arms out to the sides with the palms facing forward. Maybe I'll give a thumbs up to all of you. And the arms can be as high up as feels good. They could be way down here if that would feel better. So I just want to kind of explore bringing my thumbs back behind me and then bringing my thumbs forward and then down. So this feeling the opening of my shoulders. So the shoulder joint, as I mentioned, does a lot of different things here. And this movement helps me kind of feel some of that opening and rotation of the shoulder. Very good. And then I'm going to go ahead and just give myself a hug. Tuck the chin, breathe into the upper back. You're exactly where you need to be in this moment. All right. So let's bring the arms out to the sides or as far up as feels good to you. Maybe let's just do the right hand to start. So the right hand is out to the side at whatever degree of height feels good. And I'm going to try to spread my fingers wide apart And then I'll make a fist around my thumb, drop the knuckles down. So a nice wrist stretch. As I lift, I'm seeing how far back can I get those fingers towards my face, right? And then I'll make that thumb around my fist, drop the knuckles down. So lifting, spreading, breath in, fingers tipping back with the arm straight, and then knuckles down. And this was one of the movements on the Flexa test, was to see how far back you could bring your fingers towards your face here. And I'm not getting very far with this. In the little image, they had a person whose hand was going like back like that at a crazy angle. And they wrote that that person would likely be a gymnast. Very not helpful, right? Okay, so let's do the other arm, left arm out to the side. Spreading my fingers and tipping the fingers back towards the face with a nice straight arm, if that's okay with you. And then knuckles will come down. And maybe you're doing this with the arms down at the sides because you have shoulder mobility issues. That would be fine. Really nice. So just noticing how far back do my fingers want to come towards the face. Are you breathing? Oh yeah, I forgot to breathe. And maybe one more like that. It's beautiful. All right. So now I'm going to take my right arm out to the right again and tip my left ear towards my left shoulder. Just make some little circles here, kind of getting into more of a dynamic stretch. So a dynamic stretch means that I'm moving within the stretch, and I can feel the stretching, helping to stretch my shoulder, stretch the muscle, the trap muscle that connects my shoulder and my neck. And then with my palm facing behind me, I'm going to tuck my arm behind my back. And I might try that a few times. And this is also can be difficult for some of us as we lose that mobility in the shoulder joint. So I'm just going to rest that arm there and maybe take a breath or two and let time do the work. So just got that right arm tucked behind the back. Maybe the hand is on the hip instead, if that feels easier, more accessible. Big breath in, breath out. All right, you got it. And starting to feel a lot warmer. I think it's maybe the synovial fluid, and the lymph fluid and the blood. So left arm out to the left, I'm going to tilt my right ear away and just begin that dynamic movement of making circles that move downward little by little. And a lot of the things in our class today are things that we do in every class. So just looking at it through the lens of range of motion, flexibility. And when you're ready, maybe you face the palm back and tuck the arm behind the back a few times. Just see what that motion feels like on the left side. Got it? And then I'll just take my arm, leave it there. Take a couple of easy breaths. Sigh it out the mouth. And then release. Okay, we're going to come back to the shoulders in a minute, but I don't want to stress the shoulders too much. So let's move into the spine. I like to use my arms for this, but you do not have to, right? So bringing the arms back kind of helps me lift my chest. It's a little mild spinal extension, right? So the opposite of rounding the back. And then I'll go ahead and bring my hands in front of me, interlace the fingers, and I might do a little tiny tuck of my chin, pulling the arms away. You're going to avoid rounding the back if you have severe osteoporosis. We're opening the arms, lifting the heart, a little mild back bend, and then interlace, pull the arms away, tuck the chin, mild rounding of the back. And a couple more of those. right? So if you do have severe osteoporosis, and someone here was talking about compression fractures in the mid-back, you really do want to avoid rounding the back. That can put more pressure on those vertebrae that are fragile. Okay, so just a nice lift and tuck. And then I'll give myself another hug. And as you give yourself a hug, notice which arm wants to naturally be on top. And then let's do the opposite arm. Ooh, Bonnie, I want to get in there. That looks like a really nice hug. And notice, are my elbows stacked? There's no judgment if they're not. So this can be an indicator, yeah, it's not happening, right? For some of us, especially, we lost a lot of the cartilage in the shoulders. That might be really painful. So don't do it if it's painful. All right, now one more thing with the shoulders. So we're gonna try lifting the arm up and see how it would be to pat yourself on the back. Maybe, maybe not, right? That elbow is lifted. See how far up the elbow wants to get. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with the other side. Left arm lift, give yourself a tuck on the back. And we're just getting warmed up for a shoulder stretch. You got it, Jennifer. That's good. See if you can tap yourself on the back with that left palm. And then I'm going to bring this right arm up. Pat myself on the back. And with my left arm, maybe, I'm going to see if I could reach over my head and grab my elbow. And just give myself a little shoulder stretch here. I'm patting myself on the back. Big breath in. Don't push through discomfort or pain. All right. Doing what you can do. Focus on what you can do. And then other arm. So I'll bring my left arm up. Pat myself on the back. Reach up with the right arm. Grab that left elbow. Maybe, maybe not. Do what feels possible. We're breathing into it and releasing from here, and I'm just going to roll those shoulders up, back, and down, right? So that was a lot of tricky shoulder stuff. Great job, guys. Now we're going to take a little bit of a wider stance, and if you have hip issues, such as one friend here was talking about, osteophytes or arthritis in the hips that prevent a wider stance, do a narrow stance. I'm going to take a little bit of a wider stance here. And just doing so, I've done one movement that the hips can do, or that they're working towards doing, right? Which is rotating open. So I might hold on to my chair and walk my feet back in. Walking my feet out. So you can imagine the hip joints as we do this are getting a little bit of lubrication from synovial fluid. By contrast to the shoulder, the hip joint is actually the most stable joint in the body, that deep ball and socket joint. So we're walking in and out, just saying hello to our hips. And then the next time you walk out, stay out to whatever degree feels good to you. Come to the edge of the chair, and we're going to work with some spinal movement now. So we worked with extending and rounding just a little bit. Now we're going to work with lateral flexion or side bending. So this would mean I'm leaning over to that left side, maybe taking my right hand onto my right rib cage and just breathing into my hand. I'm not going to too extreme of motion here. Coming back to center, left hand, sliding up to the left rib cage, leaning to the right. Easy breath into the hand. You could keep doing it this way, or you might want to involve the arms. Right arm reaching up and over. So with those shoulders nice and warmed up, this might feel okay to do this as we flow from side to side. Lateral flexion. So imagine the juices flowing in the spine. Keep the sit bones and the feet anchored down. Flow from side to side, however far feels good to you. And I always feel like I'm a dusty, creaky old accordion that hasn't been played in a while, and I need to stretch my bellows with this movement. All right, and then we'll come back to center, and maybe the legs can be a little closer if that would feel good. I'm going to bring my arms out to the sides with fists in the air, and I'm just going to twist my torso to the right a little bit, as if my heart was a camera and I'm taking a picture of something with that on the right side. We're coming back to center, breathing in. Exhale, point your heart camera to the left. Take a little picture of what's over there. Inhale, center. Exhale, right. So rotating the spine. Just a really, really gentle twist. Inhale. Exhale, left. Let's do it one more time on each side, your own pace. And then I'm going to come back to center, give myself another hug, because apparently we need at least 12 hugs a day, which means I have to give myself a few. Okay. Let's go ahead and work with the feet for a moment. So a lot of you shared that this is where you feel stiff, the ankles, the toes. I'm going to stretch my right leg out with the heel on the earth. And I'm going to pump my foot down. So see if I could touch the floor with my toes. And then I'm picking my toes up and pointing them back towards the face. This is called dorsiflexion. And as I point my foot down, plantar flexion. And I'm just noticing how far I can go in either direction with this right foot. Breathing with the movement. And the ankles can be a source of vulnerability for a lot of us. It's important to keep them strong and flexible. So let's switch sides, pumping the left foot, heel on the earth. See how far down that toe wants to go. Maybe it touches the earth. See how far it wants to come up back towards the face. And imagine, again, that motion is lotion. Bathing that joint in synovial fluid. So we measure our flexibility by the range of motion in a joint. It's not just about how far the joint will go, but it's how strong the muscles are. It's how elastic the connective tissue is. So much goes into the concept of flexibility. All right, so releasing back. And maybe I'll just stretch my right leg, lift it, the left leg, walk back and forth a few times. So I want to get a little bit of juice into the knees before I do this next exercise or motion. All right, I'm going to turn to the right side in my chair and slide so that my left glute muscle is kind of hanging off the edge of the chair there. And I'm just going to let my knee come down. And I might work towards sort of straightening this left leg. And I'm getting a really good toe stretch as I do this. So sort of pumping that leg back. And I might hold there for a breath or two. Squeeze that left glute muscle. Sit up tall. So that's a hip extension, right? Where the hip is going back. Now I'm going to walk my foot forward and see if I could take my left hand, grab my left knee, see how far up that left knee wants to come for hip flexion. Right? So I might kind of travel back to my lunge and then explore some flexion, hugging that knee up and in. See how it feels. I'm not going to push through discomfort or pain. I might do that one more time and just kind of get that whole hip. And as I'm up, I might take a little circle to that left knee. All right, and then release the foot down. So here's a little test and stretch. I'm going to drop my left knee down again. And this time I'm going to look down and see how far away is my left foot. Could I lift it up off the earth and maybe grab my pant leg or even grab my ankle? Now, if you have knee issues, sometimes this knee will not want to flex quite so deeply, meaning bend. So I'm doing two things here. I'm testing how far my knee wants to bend, and I'm giving the quad or the front of the leg a stretch. You can take a couple breaths here. Knees pointing maybe straight down. And then we'll release and walk it to the center. Nice wide stance. I'll just take a few torso circles here between sides. Motion is lotion. And of course, we did do a class on yoga for arthritis. And a lot of the same principles were involved in that. Arthritis, happens for a number of reasons, but that wear and tear on the joints is pretty much the number one reason. So we want to do low impact, things like yoga, for example. It's not going to hurt the joints, but we're still moving the joints, and that can help with flexibility as well. All right, turning the whole body to the left. Sliding that left glute off of the edge of the chair. And I'm just exploring, extending my hip, straightening my leg, kind of pumping that foot, bending and unbending the knee. Seeing how that feels for my right hip. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and very gently and carefully see how it would feel to try and hug that right knee in. And I'm going to move from lunging and straightening that back leg to lifting and hugging that right knee in without rounding my back, right? Do that a few times. You've got it. And then this next time that my leg goes down and back, I'm just going to drop that right knee down. I'm going to look down and reach for my right leg. Maybe it's the pant leg. Maybe I can grab the ankle or foot. And I'm working towards giving myself a quad stretch here. And also testing how far does my knee want to bend. And it's not helpful to look at other people here, right? No, don't look at me either, because I'm hypermobile in some of my joints, which is actually not a good thing. That's another whole class, right? Hypermobility. And then we'll release and come back to center. Come to the edge of the chair. Let's take a couple breaths together before we stand up. Imagine yourself in your mind's eye coming to stand. And then opening the eyes. If that is in your practice today, coming to stand. If not, stay seated and make some modifications. Okay. So we've done kind of a whole head to toe warm up. And yes, sitting to standing that sit to stand exercise is a great way to kind of oil up a lot of the joints at the same time. So I see a couple of you doing that. And we do that in most of our classes. I'm going to start just by taking my knuckles to my low back, just giving myself a little massage. And then I might squeeze my elbows together, push my hips forward a little bit. I've got my glutes engaged, and lifting my heart a little mini back bend. So we're extending the spine. And then coming back to stand, sinking down into the knees, bringing the hips back. Asymmetrically push the feet apart for our chair pose. Belly in towards the spine. Maybe one or both arms reach straight ahead, palms facing each other. So strength and flexibility go hand in hand. You don't really want to have one without the other. And this is a good strength building pose, chair pose. If you're seated, you could do some butt squeezes, right? So using those glute muscles. One more big breath in. And then exhale, walk yourself up. And I might just stand here and see if I could hit my heel towards my butt. And again, this is sort of like a knee flexibility test. How far up can I get my heel? Meaning, how far can my knee bend? Taking the right foot forward, left foot back at an angle. Sinking into that right knee. So here I am in a warrior 1 foot foundation. My hips are pointing forward. My spine is nice and tall and upright. My back leg is straight. Straight and strong. And maybe I hold one hand on the chair, one hand on the heart, or maybe I lift one or both arms up, palms facing each other. Big breath in. Maybe you feel that stretch across the front of the left hip. Feeling the strength in the legs, the range of motion in that left hip. One more breath. You got it. And then release the hands down. Shorten the stance. I still have my right foot forward, left foot back. And I'm going to engage the front of both of my legs here by lifting my kneecaps. So anytime I go into a stretch of a muscle, I want the opposing muscle to be active. So it's a nice, safe, active stretch. So leaning my heart forward, folding forward, maybe my forearms come onto my chair, and I'm lifting those kneecaps, right? So I'm engaged here, finding my breath. So I like for a stretch to be about 5 breaths long. Sometimes in our class, we don't have enough time for everything to be 5 breaths. But if you're doing this on your own, or you're doing a stretch on your own, a nice active stretch, 5 breaths is a good length. Come on up, we'll step the left foot forward, right foot back at an angle, hips pointed forward. Squeeze that right glute muscle, right? So I'm stretching the front of that right hip, and I'm strengthened in the back of the right hip where the glute is. That opposing force is so important. Finding what works for you with the arms. You could hold on, you could lift one or both arms. You got it, Joe. Big breath in, breath out. And release, shorten the stance, both legs straight, lift the kneecaps. And take your pyramid pose, taking a bow. Feeling that stretch perhaps in the back of the left leg. I'm breathing into it. Nice active stretch, tucking my chin so I'm not exacerbating anything in my neck here. And then we'll come up and let's step both feet back for a downward facing dog. So this is a shoulder opener. It's a hamstring stretch. It also brings space in the spine. And I like to sometimes just wag my tail here so I don't take myself too seriously. Finding a breath or two. And when you're ready, walking yourself up nice and slow. Taking a little bit of a wider stance and taking some hip circles. Imagining the ball and socket joints of your hips. Right? So it's sometimes this is where they measure for osteoporosis, the neck of the femur that goes into the hip. I think it's called the acetabellum. I forget exactly, but I think of it as like there's an orange on the end of a stick sitting in an upside down coffee cup, right? And as we make this motion, just imagine little spurts of nice, juicy oil, right? Lubricating the joints, coming in the opposite direction. You got it, Roxanne. Beautiful. Then I'll go ahead and just take hold of my chair for this. Maybe move my feet a little bit closer together. So another way the hip moves is by adduction. So we sweep the leg in front and cross over. And then abduction, lifting the leg up and away from the midline of the body. So towards the midline of the body and away from the midline of the body. Now this time I'm going to go behind me toward the midline and away from me. Behind and away. Maybe I can sort of sweep the leg in front, side, and back a few times. Maybe it's a very small, subtle movement if you have arthritis or hip issues going on. Feel the strength of the standing leg. So all the while we're doing this, we're putting pressure on that left femur neck, on that left hip, and it's an opportunity to build strength in the bones. Let's switch sides. So weight will come into the left foot. I'm sweeping the leg out to the front, to the side with a squeeze back behind me as far as feels good. That little side lift squeeze feels like a movement that I really need. Doing what feels possible. Right? Yeah, and looking down, that can also be a nice way to sort of see what is my mobility, what is my range here. And then we'll come back and bring the feet about hip distance apart. Come up onto the tiptoes and come back down, or maybe just bend one knee at a time and give those toes a really good stretch. Some of you were saying this is where you really experience a lot of stiffness, is the feet and the toes. So these tiptoe floats and the little toe presses that we're doing can really be helpful. Keep the feet in good shape. Right, and then finally, I'm going to bring my toes out to the sides like Charlie Chaplin. I'm going to sink down into my knees a little bit, bring my hips back, and isometrically, I'm pushing my feet away from the body. And I just feel this strength in my hips. So my hips are externally rotated open here. Now I'm going to come up to stand and walk my feet so that my toes are pointed inward a little bit. Now my hips are internally rotated. So this is another way the hips move out and in. And I might kind of play around with that like a little robot. Hips pointing open and out, toes pointing out, toes pointing in. Just having a little fun with all the ways that our joints can move. You got it, Jane. And then I might come to that open stance and just sink down, reach up and to the right, sink down, reach up and to the left, sink down. One more on each side, big breath, sink down. And last one, up and to the left, you got it, Gail. And come on back to center. And let's let the whole body be loose and limp and like a little windsock person outside a car dealership. Somebody sent me a picture of one the other day. I say this often enough in our classes that it made them think of our class. So whole body movements, one of my favorite things to do to just get the joints all limbered up. Take a little sip of water and then come to sit and we will wind down. Coming to sit. Crossing the right ankle over the left knee. This is another stretch that we do in every class. And so useful and helpful to stretch the hip joint and the muscles surrounding the hip joint. Sometimes it puts a little undue pressure on the knee, however. So I like to flex, not point, my right foot here. So my leg is active, right? And then I might lean forward a bit. Maybe there's a little farther to travel. I'm not going to round forward, right? So I have a nice long back, leading with the heart. You got it, Bonnie, beautiful. My shoulders are relaxed, my jaw is relaxed, and I'm doing this for, at least 5 breaths. You've been here for a while, maybe a couple more breaths. Sitting up tall, cross the knee over, take a little twist to the right. Maybe I can go a little farther here than when we did this before, this rotation of the spine. I'm not going to force it though. And if I'm caring for compression fractures in the spine, I will be very, very gentle here. Come on back to center. Switch sides, left ankle over the right knee. Flex that foot, flex the toe, not point, and reach the heart forward. Find what feels like the right amount of sensation. So when we're stretching, I don't want to push past too much stress, but how do I find that healthy stretching sensation? For me, I want to feel the sensation not in the insertion point of where the muscle is at the bone, but more in the belly of whatever muscle it is I'm stretching. It's a little complicated here to kind of figure that out, but if the joint feels stressed, that maybe you've gone too far. Sitting up, crossing the knee over, taking that little twist to the left. Nice tall spine. Exhale on the twist. Maybe you get a little taller. Exhale one more. And then come on back. Maybe you want to hug one knee in at a time. Maybe you want to extend and hug and roll the ankle. I'm really showing off my hypermobility, right? Any other movements the body's asking for? Maybe it's rolling of the wrists. We didn't roll the wrists before. Giving yourself one more juicy hug. Yeah, that looks lovely. Take a breath here. Give yourself a pat on the back. And we'll close our class with the hands at heart center. Maybe you want to close the eyes or soften the gaze and just widen out your awareness to include all those in the Waldenstrom community right now, today. Some of you going through a lot of challenging things. So we're going with the flow here, having a bit of flexibility of the mind. Just taking 3 breaths together. In through the nose, out through the nose or mouth. I am flexible in body and mind. And I'll close our class with 1 Om and 3 Shantis for peace. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thanking you so much for your practice today, friends. Namaste.